So what about the long term?
Yeah, the first is with regards to the questions that we ask. I think to a large extent, it's fair to say that one of the core functions of an authorizer is to ask questions. I mean, we here in Philadelphia, we ask schools tons of questions. So, what's your calendar? How many students graduated last year? What's your plan for serving English learners? And the important part here is to make sure that we're asking the right questions, the meaningful questions that will get us clear answers, and the meaningful questions that will push our schools to think critically about what we're asking and why we're asking it. So we're reassessing all of our touch points with schools through the charter life cycle, from what do we ask in the new charter application through to what we ask in a renewal application, to make sure we're pushing schools to explain to us and the public how they will be anti-racist spaces, how they will be anti-racist schools that will really truly serve every single one of their students. That's a conversation that we're going to continue to have, not just internally, but especially with our schools, to think about how we can make sure those questions are being brought to the forefront. And then, Veronica, as you know, the second kind of ongoing long-term project that's always been on the radar has been on the policy and legislative front. The Pennsylvania charter school law is about 23 years old,
Yep, definitely one of the
and
worst in the country.
yeah, and really hasn't seen changes over the 23 years. We've seen some changes on the margins, and it is often referred to as the weakest charter school law in the country. And so, clear opportunities here at the state level to make meaningful changes, to establish things like a more equitable funding formula, to make standards and accountability structures clearer, really to offer clarity across the board, I think would be helpful. That conversation's happening. Prior to the pandemic, there was some elevated energy at the state level, and I'm hopeful that the conversation in the next session can get restarted kind of with a similar level of vigor. And so while I'm here at the School District of Philadelphia, I'm not in Harrisburg, I'm not a policy person, I'm definitely not a lobbyist. But to the extent that we have a role to play as an authorizing subject matter expert, as a voice in this conversation about the charter law or connected legislation, we want to be that voice. We want to play that role. And so I'm eager to see how we can do that in the coming months and years.